the space where we excavate the extraordinary from the heart of the challenge. I'm your host, Thomas Scaria, and if you're feeling a pull, maybe or maybe not, towards a deeper purpose, a legacy beyond the peaks that you've already conquered, or it may be that you're in the valleys trying to seek the peak, you're in the right place. Because just like 26.2 transformative miles I explore in my book, life's most significant chapters often begins when we dare to redefine our finish line. It's available to buy on all the major platforms. Today I have the honor of welcoming an amazing partner guest, Dr. Sophie Jablonsky. If I was to say about Dr. Sophie, at the intersection of science, psychology, and coaching, she empowers individuals to navigate life's transition with confidence, clarity, and purpose. She has over 20 years of experience as a scientist, and get this, guys, an energy expert, and also she's a positive psychology practitioner. She has come to this particular part of her life wherein she has realized she needs to help people or be of a service for people to thrive in a complex, ridden environment, whether it's about mastering leadership, emotional intelligence, and of course, one of the main elements I've forgotten, flourishing in the financial world. It's geared for women towards financial freedom and empowerment. I can go on and on, but let's just jump directly to the matter. Welcome, Dr. Sophie, to Resilience plus Rise, the podcast.
Yes, thank you, Thomas. It's a pleasure to be here today. And thank you for the invitation to speak on a few topics that will gravitate probably around resilience, but not just.
Hmm.
And there is there is a lot to be said about this beautiful introduction that you just delivered, right? It has already made me think about some of these anchor points. So thank you.
Fantastic. So, Doctor, I would love to say is that you have got a medical practice behind you.
Not really. Let me get this right
Psychology,
already. This
okay,
is doctor as in PhD in energy
PhD.
policy, right?
Okay, energy, that's a different dynamics, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, from a person that was dealing with energy, how did you move into psychology? How did you get into coaching? Or
Yeah.
now, if I'm asking you that, if you were supposed to tell me your story in maybe 4, 5 minutes, what would that story be?
Oh wow. That is a tough one, right? I think many people can make it very long, or we get we get to train on this elevator pitch, which is also not like what we're trying to do here. So yeah, it's a very interesting question in the sense that it's about you have a point A, which is Dr. Sophie Jablonsky being a senior energy specialist, for example, working in in an international organization, doing work as an engineer, as a technical expert, doing due diligence on projects in developing countries, let's say, And so feeling like she's having really an impact on helping people in the
Mm-hmm.
world and doing something good, not only for these people, but also for the planet, right? Which is why I chose to work on climate mitigation technologies in the first place. So I think there was always this desire for me to have this impact on making things better on the environment and going towards point B in a way which is now, as I am a positive psychology practitioner, applying the tools from the science of well-being onto finance and our relationship with money, which is something that's also transforming people's lives, but in a quite a different way and perhaps a bit more granular in the sense that it would be person to person, or as the message spreads, maybe few people by few people. So this transition, to me, I've had to work on the narrative of that too, because it goes in little steps, but there are also some specific discrete points where you really have an inflection point, where you really have a transition, a decision that suddenly makes a big difference in your life. So in my life, I had to decide that I had to leave my job in this prestigious organization to do
Mm-hmm.
something different. The inflection point was me at 44, having gone through burnout and deciding that I could do 20 years of my career forward doing something completely different and embracing this idea that it could be possible. And I was curious of this new direction, the science of well-being, the science of positive psychology. Positive psychology personally helped me when I was going through this burnout via the therapy and etc. And what I discovered was that there was a field of scientific discovery which felt really appealing to me with my researcher's antenna, that I could go and dig more and also help people, so continue to have an impact. So suddenly the transition was made possible. So I tried to summarize a little bit, but this is how I.
Fantastic. Fantastic. I always, in my podcast, there's one of the statements I say is that from our deepest of pains comes our purpose. Or, as I would paraphrase Rumi, from our deepest of wounds shines the brightest of lights. You were at a pinnacle. You could have continued with the journey. Yes, you could have taken some medication. You could have continued with being the energy scientist that you were. But you decided to pivot. You decided to change your purpose of life to something which was absolutely different. What you just mentioned, it sounded kind of easy, but I know it would be very, very scary. So, guys who's listening to this particular conversation, I'll be putting out Dr. Sophie's connection information in the comments below. Check it out. So, Dr. Sophie, tell me is that when you moved from, because there would have been a lot of people saying, why do you want to move into something? So, yes, you reached a burnout, but people would have said, you can still continue with it, including your own mind itself.
Yeah. Yeah, of course. And I think that of course, you're touching a point here, because I think what was really keeping me in that that previous chapter, in a way, I mean, that could have continued with a certain story. Uh, Something was preventing me from going to the next page, right? Because when you start to envisage what is possible, you have to decide whether or not you're really committed to making that a reality. And
Hmm.
at that point, coaching was crucial for me, because I discovered the tools of life coaching. I discovered that we have much more intentionality, we have much more power than we think we have, working out our thoughts, working out our emotions, and ultimately our actions in a way that is, let me quote this, sustainable. So we go back to sustainable development. is
Okay.
this idea to try to be effective, efficient with life's energy. So we go back to energy. In that case, we're talking about your emotions. What are the emotions that I'm choosing myself to propel myself forward? And of course, fear is one of the emotions that very often when you're making these decisions, you have to face, you have to accept that there will be fear, but you also have to find a way to cultivate other emotions. So that's when thought work is really crucial. So my thoughts at the time were very negative. They
Mm-hmm.
were like, who are you to think that you can do something like that? Um, Other thoughts that I have were really the repeat was, you're a caricature of a midlife crisis. What are you doing? You're starting yoga. You want to learn about psychology. You want to become a coach. This is ridiculous. Those were my thoughts. I mean, with variations, right? Because our
Mm-hmm.
brain is amazing when it comes to creating the
True.
web around that. So, of course, I would hear this, I would sense this in the look of others, in the sentence of others, in the thoughts. And one person in particular in that, of course, my father. You would say is not a
Okay.
surprise that for many people, parental figures sometimes play this role in really influencing um how you're thinking. And
Mm.
in a way, I think that step for me was a slow progression towards emancipation and becoming an adult. I had to finally have my adolescence crisis
Okay.
and say no to daddy,
Mm-hmm.
that I'm gonna decide differently. And not to mean that it had to be a big bang, but I learned it was possible to say thank you, but no thank you. And I
Mm-hmm.
love you, but I love me more. And
Beautiful.
that was super powerful.
That is so beautiful. In fact, a couple of thoughts which came up to my mind when you were talking about this conversation. Yes, we have got the external figures. We have got our own inner circle, whether we are talking about our partners, our parents, etc. But our own mind also at times saying, "What are you thinking about?" Because they want to keep us safe.
Yeah.
And but one of the things which in fact, this morning I read something which was so beautiful, and I think so I'll be holding it very close to my heart, is that when parents criticize a child or even an adult, it's not that they stop loving the parent, it's that at times they stop loving their own self.
Oh, wow.
And Dr. Sophie, you just pointed a very powerful statement, is that I love you, but I love myself more. If people realize that performance, it's not about selfishness, it's not about ego,
Yeah.
but it's about your own self-worth of what we are capable of. This journey and to where you have reached now, when you look back, and the way I always look at it is that we are always learning. There's still more spaces that we got to evolve. But at this point of time, Dr. Sophie, if I would ask you is that for people who are in this, whether they call it as, they may feel it as midlife crisis or something. Of course, burnout is very common, but a lot of people, they don't acknowledge it. They just brush it at the side. They think, it may be too much of work. It may be too less of time. But if you have to suggest few elements, maybe around three or four, to the people who are in that particular cusp in this part of journey, wherein they do not have a clarity about where they're going through. I'm not asking for an advice because I myself I do not like advice. But if you have to suggest to them, what would you suggest to them?
I think, I mean, it's a bit like you, right? I mean, it's very hard to give advice on this. I mean, we can share our own experience and what
Hmm.
we went through, or Of course, I also now see with the work I'm doing with clients, like I have quite a few clients that are at this age, right? This is midlife. I mean, midlife is quite a wide range, right? I mean, for me, I would say midlife, you can be between, 30 to 50, you're still midlife, right? Maybe even 60, I don't know. It depends how long we think we're going to live in a way, if we really make it like half point.
Mm-hmm.
So I think what really saved me was to be able to have some time where I started to observe, and
Mm-hmm.
learning to observe is really a skill that not many people have been taught to have. And so I would say in life's classical evolution, if there's such thing, I mean, it probably doesn't mean anything, but let's say in our each of our journeys, there will be moments when we have these adversity moments, and these are forcing us to evolve. So it's also these moments that sometimes force us to then take stock of what happens, then really observe. So some people are maybe more equipped to learn that by themselves, but also depending on the life journeys, there may be some other people like me, for example, where I really was quite numb to my own emotions. I was very
Okay.
disconnected, and I was not able anymore, little by little, to really read through them. So what helped me was to take the time and step by step, in a way, learn how it was possible to become emotionally, I would go beyond saying emotionally intelligent. I think it's emotionally mature, in this idea to take ownership and
Mm-hmm.
to really take, I mean, when I say ownership, is more to take responsibility for my own emotions and not blame it on the world, not blame it not on the people or my childhood or whatever, but really observing, accepting, and little by little being more intentional. So I used to think that I was very emotionally intelligent because I was
Mm-hmm.
feeling a lot of things all the time. But in reality, the way I would receive this information, I was totally confused and overwhelmed. So I was not able to do much from that, apart from in time, because it was using a lot of my vitality to shut them down and disconnect.
Wow. I mean, with the label that you have got of being an energy scientist, and when you say that you're not emotionally intelligent, it's like, how is even that possible?
Yeah. Well, I mean, many of us, right? I mean, it's not just me. It's actually, you're mentioning like energy expert or something like that. Let's say science in general, I mean, has been put in many ways on a pedestal for
Mm-hmm.
all these aspects of, what we call the hard skills, right? The cognitive uh, intelligence, this idea,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it's about knowledge, it's it's about this kind of competencies to like move around the idea, but it's not so much connected necessarily to the emotions. And for a long time, it's been put forward, right, that rationality is about being detached from emotion. I have completely changed my mind. I think being rational is being able to fully receive the information from your emotions and yet be able to make the best decision based on that. So it's not, what, but somehow to understand that is hard, because education and school and etc. is like when we are children, so our brain is not fully formed to all of this yet. So we have to
Mm-hmm.
accept that it comes in time. It's part of growing up, really, or as we always say with coaching, it's part of growing. So it's not like you get to 18 and suddenly you're an adult, right, in the
True.
emotional sense of the word. So yeah.
That's so wonderful because a lot of times we, whether it is our educational labels or the age labels or different the social labels. These A lot of these particular labels tend to define or put us into that particular pedestal. But what you mentioned was something which was very much fantastic, which I have been working on time and again, is about being open.
Yeah.
Because when we come out from and especially in today's world where social media has literally overtaken, whether it's the social media or whether it is the chat GPTs or the Geminis or the Gorks which have taken over our thinking capacity, we are at times confined in certain boxes. People used to say break the box. In fact, there should not be a box. But the moment we are ready to accept it and see on what could be possible or what else is possible, I think so that's when the magic starts happening.
Yeah, and actually, even I mean, I totally like that. I mean, you're mentioning boxes. I mean, the way I kind of integrated that was through these lenses of um, how is it called? The thinking system, um, collection of thoughts, belief systems, right? So
Beliefs.
actually, the science in itself, you could say, the way it's being constructed is also a way of thinking. It's a way of apprehending reality. It's like really, it's a belief system.
Hmm.
And it has helped humans to do a lot of things, right? To acquire certain progress. I'm putting the in between quotes, right? But to go through, so, but it's a belief system. Then you would have maybe religious belief systems, and then you have your family belief systems, and all these
True.
belief systems. For me, I connected that to when you said the boxes. And what happens is that very often we don't realize we are in this box. We don't realize we are in the system, but our thoughts are from the system. So
Yes.
I know it's a bit like the Matrix, right? Everybody's like, oh my God, it's like the Matrix. But if you're able to step outside of that and start seeing I don't know, in the Matrix was numbers, right? Or something, I
Yeah,
forgot.
the matrix, the zero, but the
Laser
binaries are
stuff
there.
from the Matrix.
Yeah,
Okay,
and of course the red pill and the blue pill
right. So
choices.
exactly. So be able to, that's another one that's really interesting, right? But I mean, just to say, at least to notice that you're having thoughts, and then to be able to observe them from a point of view of not judging, not saying it's right or wrong. Is just, I believe this is right because I have this belief. And so then you start to be able to observe yourself, but you also start to better observe other people, right? Because then you're able to not necessarily rush to have a judgment, especially moral judgment. That's why you were saying the
Of
blue or
course.
the red. I'm just like, I mean, morality is part of that, right? What is right, what is wrong? I really felt there came a moment for me when I started learning the tools of coaching and listening to that. I was like, it really sounds like it's almost I don't know if it's the right metaphor, but like the alchemist, like it's like my
Yes.
God, like I know something that how come not everybody knows about that? Like it's so important, it's so crucial, and yet it's a big responsibility because everybody can get through this at their own pace, and not to say that it's a superior way of thinking, right? It's also the Pandora box, right? It's like, okay, once you've seen it, you cannot unsee it.
Beautiful. Beautifully said. Dr. Sophie, just being mindful of the time. Two questions. The first one is a very important one is that, again, in this journey called as life, wherein you have been involved with the climate sustainability, whether you have been involved with pivoting from where your boxes were supposed to be, breaking the shackles of your own mindset, reaching to a point of being a coach, providing purpose, financial freedom to women. If there were one or two things that you would like to tell the people, hey guys, this is what I would like to tell you, what would that be?
Yes, so this topic came about because I went through my own transition, and of course, money being this very versatile thing that is basically present in each of our lives,
Mm-hmm.
uh, it naturally came as a subject. And I was really living through it from different perspectives because I had to change my job. I decided to create an enterprise to oh, my camera's
Yeah,
turned.
yeah,
Sorry.
no problems.
Okay, sorry. It's telling me that my camera doesn't work anymore.
No worries. Let's go. You can continue.
Okay. Um, so that was one of the financial transitions, but I was also going through, unfortunately, bereavement of people close to me, where
Mm-hmm.
I had to manage the inheritance in between different people. And so that
Mm-hmm.
also gave me this perspective on what happens when you mix up emotions, money, and actually all these topics came together. And I also got to realize how, for women, we typically have certain thoughts that are not conducive to helping us to really be taking the lead, actually, and making decisions for ourselves on this particular chapter. So,
Okay.
yeah, so I think what's really important here is to realize that, a bit like the other subjects that we touched on, actually, when it comes to money, we also grew up with a lot of beliefs. So a fully standing belief system,
Mm-hmm.
and that we can learn to observe it, to, in a way, make decisions to change it that are helping us to become more successful in life. And what I mean by that is really to become more successful in the various dimensions of life based on our own definition. So it's not necessarily meaning to become extremely rich or to reach a certain number. It's really about success in the way we live through life. So the flourishing element.
Okay. Of course. That was a wonderful way of putting it across. Dr. Sophie, what's the projects that you have been working on in the which is currently happening, or what's something happening which is going to be different in the next couple of months?
Yes, so thanks for asking. And we actually are reaching the point where, with this initiative I set out with my business partner, Mina Schmidt in Switzerland, we have created Flourish Financially. And the point of Flourish Financially is to create this community of men and women, individuals who are curious to embrace their relationship with money in a more holistic manner. So it's really
Okay.
this idea of embracing flourishing through your relationship with money. We
Okay.
have a program that we have created, and the second cohort of this program is going to run starting September. So,
September.
end of
What
September.
end of September? Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So, guys, I will be putting out Dr. Sophie's links, and if you're ready for it, do reach out and see if it has a calling and see in what way it could help you. So that would be wonderful. And anything else that you would like to add on to?
No, I just want to say that resilience is really something that we can learn to cultivate. It
Hmm.
doesn't have to be purely a survival mechanism, because quite a few of us have learned resilience through that way. But there is another way. Just like from point A to point B, you can
Okay,
go there by many different routes. So maybe it's time to consider one that you can choose.
fantastic. So, Dr. Sophie, with this, I would like to conclude our session. That was very, very, very much quite interesting, and especially looking at your journey, how it has been happening. I'm sure a lot of listeners would be interested in knowing more about you. I sincerely wish you all the best.